Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. In this video I'm going to talk about what is the best frame rate setting for your camera when shooting motorcycle videos. Catch you inside.
RevelatorAlf.
Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. Please subscribe and hit the notifications bell and you'll get all the updates and all the latest videos sent straight to you. Anyway, so this video is all about what is the best frame rate setting for your camera, for your video camera, when you're making motorcycle videos. Specifically, I suppose, but anything really. Now, I tend to use two types of cameras when I'm doing my motorcycle videos. I use a Drift HD or I use a GoPro. Now, you might say, well, why haven't I got the latest HD camera? Why haven't I got the latest GoPro? And I kind of get into that a little bit later on. But suffice to say, these suit my needs absolutely perfectly. Now, frame rate. What is frame rate? Frame rate is the frames per second at which the camera captures an image. So basically, when in a conventional stills camera, you would press the button and the shutter within the camera body would open up and it would allow the light that's coming through the lens to be passed and be registered or captured on the film, you know, in old technology, if you like. Fast forward a few years, that light will be going through the doorway, through the shutter, onto the image sensor that records the image, so on and so forth. So that is the shutter speed, if you like. So the way in which the cameras, video cameras work is that it's almost like it's got an open doorway, but the image sensor behind it, you know, that registers the video, is capturing it it's almost taking a certain amount of photos per second, or frames per second. Okay, so in a conventional camera, let's say if we're shooting at 25 frames per second, in a stills camera, that means the shutter will be opening and closing, you'll be pressing the button 25 times to open and close that shutter 25 times every second, okay? So in a conventional video camera, for example an action camera, if you set it at 25 frames per second, it will go and obviously a little bit faster than that, but if you know what I mean. That will allow a certain amount of light and for the sensor within the camera to register that light and that image. Now, at 25 frames per second in the UK and around the world, that is the standard format for broadcast format for speed, for frame speed. In the US it's slightly more, it's actually 30 frames per second, but essentially those two are the right thing to use if you want the greatest latitude in terms of image quality and in terms of lighting. Now, you can check out my other videos for best lighting and I'll put a caption up there now for that as well. However, essentially, if you've got a bright day, a nice bright day, you're shooting in daylight conditions, when you're shooting your bike videos or whatever it is, if you set your camera at 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second, something like that, then it's enough to, you know, video around, walking around, doing this kind of thing, face the camera, but certainly enough for, you know, making your motorcycle videos. Now, if you increase the frame rate, so let's say to, I don't know, 40, 60, 120, whatever it is, essentially what you're doing is that you're opening and closing the shutter in a conventional camera, or, you know, making the image sensor inside the camera capture the image a lot quicker. So it's going, instead of going at 25 frames per second, it's actually going at 60, 100, you know, really, really fast. Okay, apologies for the display there. Okay, but essentially what you get the idea. I was just about to say you get the picture, pardon the pun, but you get the idea in that at slower frames per second, the shutter, if you like, the image capture registration is at a slower rate, so it's allowing a lot more light in, whatever. If you've got really high movement across the video, across the lens, then you're going to get a blurring with the slower the shutter speed or the slower the frame rate. However, if you've got a really high frame rate, then it will still capture it very, very quickly. I mean, if you want to slow that video down, this is a crucial thing. If you want to slow that video down for your audience, then you won't get a blurring effect. You'll get a clear image all the time because you've got so many more frames, so many more shots per any given second. However, when you're shooting motorcycle videos, you really don't need to have the really high frame rate if you're doing a point of view shot and you're just riding along. Now you can increase it up to 60 frames per second, something like that, if you really want to, but it's not really going to make a great deal of difference in terms of image quality. So image quality is really determined by the lens, how big your lens is, which you're kind of limited with the, kind of action sports cameras, there's kind of that kind of size lens, which is a lot better than your smartphone, which would be a very small lens. This is going to be obviously a little bit better. They're shooting in HD, 1080, so if you're shooting 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second, that should be absolutely fine. If you want to actually create effects in that you want to go really fast, for example, on a narrow track, and there's lots of trees, and you want that kind of blurring effect, well, you can actually utilize a slower frame rate to actually create a natural effect. If you don't want that kind of actual blurring effect, you can increase the frame rate slightly, but if you're going to run the video at the same pace at the same time, in other words, you're not going to slow it down, you won't notice a difference. However, what you need to do, if you want to remove that blurring, you're going to have to actually slow down the video in editing in order for it to get rid of that blurring. So the frame rate doesn't really make a lot of difference in terms of the actual overall video or audience viewing pleasure, if you like, in normal speed. If you increase the frame rate, the only way it's going to work if you actually slow it down in editing, and then you slow down editing and you'll still retain some image quality as long as the lighting is correct. The more frame rate that you do, or the greater the frame rate that you have, the less time the available light is allowed to be registered on the sensor. So you really need a bright day in order for that light to still come into the sensor and still to be registered. If it's a really dull day at night, then it's going to be a really poor video. So motorcycle videos, I would say I shoot personally in 1080 all the time, and I shoot at 25 frames per second. That's when I still get really good quality video, and especially the kind of speeds at which I'm doing. I'm mostly off-road or on the back roads, on tarmac roads. I'm tending to not be concerned about trying to slow things down. I'm actually just capturing what's right in front of me, or if I place the camera on top of my helmet, or I've got a chest cam or a shoulder cam set up with the GoPro, whatever it is, or even if I put the cameras on the bike, whatever it is, I still don't need to have 60, 120 frames per second, because I've still got 25 frames per second, and I know that it's at broadcast speed as well, if that footage is ever going to be used in a future date, for example. Anyway, I know I've rambled on, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what is the best frame rate. Now, if you're asking me, is it an absolute best to shoot at 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second? Well, obviously the answer is no, because there is no answer. This is a my cousin Vinny question. Answer. It's a bullshit question. There is no perfect frame per second. It really depends on what you want to achieve. However, if you want the greatest latitude, to make use of best light for your video for 99.9% of all motorcycling videos. Just shoot at 1080, that'll be fine, and that's the video resolution. I'll make another video for that, but also for frames per second, 25 frames per second or 30 frames per second is absolutely fine. You know, the slower the speed, you know, then you're making the best use of the light and the maximum time that can be registered on your camera as well. So anyway, I hope this video helps. I hope you you know, can make great motorcycle videos as well. So I've made lots of motorcycle videos in the past, you know, music videos with motorcycles, you know, even for my own channel, which, you know, is here I've just started, and that kind of thing. Lots of different things, you know, on the bike, off the bike, and I've found that 25 frames per second, 30 frames per second is more than enough for 99% of the uses, especially if you're just going to play it or just going to make the video watchable in real time. Right, hope you found this useful. Please put comments below. Really appreciate, you know, what you think and what your uses are for frames per second and how you would use it. And if you like the video, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for any other videos that come out. You'll be the first to know. Right, catch you on the next video. Cheers.